pharmacists anope oni e betwetwe enkomo no e bedoso mo so mo de e beba bi ho ana mabisa no ne mo muntie ne yie se de be ya de e bisa no mo nsan enkonko bisa bi se de be ma adesua no aye de na akona nim suso Dr. Kwaba.
Thank you.
Apomboko de.
Mpachenya.
Yeah. Pacho COVID-19 e ba na wo Ghana ha.
Mpachenya.
Nti haya na wa.
Aha na mo.
Ye ne wa.
Ayo
nko baby ya.
Nko baby ya.
Ti ye koso nyina wa hu ne nyina. All right. Okay. Me were 2 questions bi am pese be de sha se. Isan se mo na munim yare sem ne ade and program in my transfer can say yes I did by a matisse bibi or a pandemic but na minima de cro and we inti na ma me sha say me sua ni me bia fa ho na madwen ba ko me say yenim say sa de we ebeba e ka nipa brabo ho sa na tie pandemic na ka nipa brabo
inyo and then they have been yenya bi that maybe not in your lifetime and not but in kanu at the Spanish flu 1918 okuni pa 50 million you know
true sir
true
my man engage you kakra maybe south question we because e binim said na dia ba ekura na enya no kura na ya sheda na ye pese ye bibi no krese Spanish flu ne kum nipa bebresa.
Kum nipa bebresa.
50 million plus.
Kum nipa 50 million. Yeah. And of course in those days and also na science yenko yenyim pi dey today sesia yako yenyim enwa aha nti yesua more na yesua more na yetum aye nyama yetum boy ho ban but ehun the 1918 yentum from compare sesia sesase nti of course nti okum nipa a lot more and of course we've had also bubonic plague also pandemic nti Ibiaba into internet of course word no whole pandemic because Ibiabada more a year obeying I'm there binum can wasem not there or ye coronavirus specific and now obaba 2019 but there nkofo ha what projections or you're looking into the future. Yenzi yeah sesian or nyama na ye behu later on what ya brom says as inti many years ago kofu binum kade wom yenhwe them azoba but there nkofu pi wadwin call bioterrorism says as the bioterrorism the terrorists baba and then of course there've been a few bioterrorist attacks
and no say nipa dasani na eye
washada na woye say when the kede anthrax there was an anthrax by a war America at a certain point in time see and there bioterrorism way amana bo won ho ban kakra say the America you know because we're targeting not few but means there what doing there as a natural occurrence or beba bibidam enwa into oba person it took us unawares now countries were not really prepared towards it.
Hona doc me madwen ye cheme kakra. Vi say na me twa ma waba na wabeboa me vi say my form opinion be over the weekend say one eye ankasa na yakofa ade we abaye ho so. Self inflicted. The enti amadwen ye me sa ne say reports no bi ho amekan no kire say na omo abo ye nkokọ say niema bi aye no ebetimi akofa bibi sei aba. In one of the reports, there are both countries binumudin, and I think it's a 2007 report. Now about China, about India, about Japan, about US. What should say? Yabwa and one say any interaction with animals. And a bit me akofa bibi say aba. And until I might be say, a self-inflicted. 2, we also knew say beba.
Well, say Canada ma. Then
what say?
Mama was 7.
Oh, 7 out of. Okay, that's great.
But I can or self-inflicted because internet at a certain point in time we talked about One Health. One Health in there you told there in your body PI says yen or zoonotic diseases are yenfanda or interaction with imboa under normal circumstances ebia inka 1 year domesticated but one aba
you don't mind ya and
zoonotic disease inti says them mboa wo diseases na yenso yawo yeze but in diseases says here with your interaction with mboa the destroying of mboa wo habitat na yamanyan yetum ya ba close to certain mboa everything or with the domestication of certain mboa yetum yenwana aba close inti one yarban wetum ehuru aba enso inti at a certain point in time, we came with the concept of One Health. One Health ni there. Ye de ye hwe mboa no wo yare na wotum oze ba ye na se ye bo ye ho ban ye bo ye ho ban against all of it. Onye de ye be hwe nipa ye ba na bia ya hankotin ye yarba no
because aboa no betimi aboa no yare a yenso betimi
okay. Then also with the advent of travel wabe kan no dey seri kwa bochi anche we busuafo nya we be jaw because no onyo bia na kwa bochi but I say 1 week in kofu kwa bochi 2 days what 3 days inti there's a lot of travel yes I say na say so there's a lot of large public large gatherings.
Even travel no crowd no plane nipa 400 whatever.
What's plane na kesen cry nipa 700 no what's no of course large gatherings in terms of what your concerts akese then to concerts nipa 50,000 go stadium. Inti dem in nyamenya wama yaye vulnerable
ya ho ada kwan say bibi betimi aye
betum aye edam na internet we talked about transforming public health surveillance then public health surveillance ye up a notch so that yes surveillance and such that ye betum ya pick them in your maybe now as it is certain countries we use maybe Google we may use Google to look at influenza patterns. But to my hotspot, baby, unkofuwa influenza. Yet you may use a lot of technology to look at public health surveillance. Inti yenyim there, dami yame obotu mesi. But yenyim paso inti yenyim do obotu mesi. Still yambo yehu bansi de sena ye de yeyen.
And so doc question we say so it means me expressions in be why me use because me lay so ebia sa baby as any man sisi no you be fan say hotspots
well you better my fandom e dey okay the yenya SARS it was a public health emergency but it didn't spread to become a pandemic today in a year MERS COVID and but it was they were of public health emergencies but not as meyenya sesia raza manoninya wenya bin inti yetum yenyim de dam nyame obetrum aba and ayede ye boy ho ban but I'm there say our health system bia nche ebe prioritize inyama pede how you strengthen it and maybe surveillance you strengthen it but inyama pi wo ho so a ehde ehwe oye ye fund oye agent ma tetase inti ma ebedwindo obesi maybe obesi ebi onsi entum bonhu ban today ma ohia osesia inti ya fan there abas no here your hospital bed, no bed syndrome. Yeah, they expand your hospitals. There your doctors will be Kumasi no nyi Accra, but baby pia be na doctor your pharmacies in Yagu Accra tam Takrady Kumasi 111 upper west you want to expand those because as all your pressing need you will not put your money into something that's enyim da ebia obesi but ebia
na me pese ye dey adwen ba ho no say en say some sort of a balancing act. The entire maybe sasa ne say yenim say besi but yenim say ebi kura na amma o. But a balance so so disruptive such that near ye pen nani nyina no ebe dwini nyina gu. So ebra ye hu say ebia you see wet markets there any interaction and in that case my can we me critique of a media house but ye report yi nyina me hwe CNN pa mahu say omoye inside Africa obi da form na say wolf atwa ne ho ahia so me bisa mo say na nya no mo wan ne say yen hwe ye the way I see interact with even in the midst of COVID-19 yef konokra no there seems to be that kind of way say no so it means say yen no yen dwene ho say bibisa be si da ana e be kra mpo well we will fight it
well yenyim de obetumesi but your priorities in your
the
your priorities in all happens this year. So even almighty America cry as much as they maybe CDC they had maybe 800,000 ventilators. America for world population is over 300 million. Will that be enough? May not be. It will not be enough. Let us. I mean, see what has happened. And we see as much as yenyim there in yama be besino. Now, yeah, but try the besin. There are pressing needs, but also in looking forward to some of these things. Now, vaccines. Now, vaccines, you know, they have come to stem the tide of inyarewa na nkanun bebre siamfande measles na diphtheria no you know tetanus na especially moframa yarewa na okun na companies binum they have invested in looking at these diseases and then invested to do the vaccines for it but of course or a novel.
Okay. Coronavirus. So you ever was in the patch or vaccine. Yeah, I say vaccine. But your vaccine no then.
Okay, vaccine or yeah who's an American fancy?
Kind of
okay. Inti.
What kind of brofu we are my house? The admiral fahu.
Vaccine. Your different types of vaccine.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you find there a corona a befa abuana kasa na a weekend abuano site na as our nipan na nipan ne so just now or nipan no muna o kutia yarba no wo hwa na wa beko dam mbuan but because after weekend abuan the body onto manifest as yaba when nipa mu nti nipa ne ho will come and overcome it and build a certain immunity nti ya them kind of vaccines no
then but I'm very much interested I mean telling you because man international class no be nti so abuana ordinary are no ono na ye be yi no
some of the vaccines. Some of, not all.
Okay.
Not all.
Okay, so let's talk about the yino. Na yina. Na ya di awo unipa dasani.
Into the weekend, a weekend, say a weekend version of or a weekend one. Bibi da. Na on then ye wo. The genetic type onye abuan ni the whole onye weekend abuan but oya abuan ni subi ehwa me fande inti aboni genetic material be okay na ya fono na yes wonipan so that nipa kron sa abon nakasa yerba nakasa ba nipa no betum akon nti otdem mosi yemfan there abofraba ho na action picture of a snake snake is a or abotan is a on your or ya abobon nti ehu abotan na e dey gwan nti it's just a picture of the aboa as if bewo nyimpan say it is yabana kasaba because nyimpan you action anybody know the picture no say then onyim there this is a bad thing it's ready to fight it and these days a lot more of the vaccines damna what say they will take a genetic matter until they don't do so much of the weakened anymore they have moved there with technology we have moved there you can never really there was a war into me yerbani be because on abon as a whole not was our but aboni nisu
nisu na husu
or something not was our own so we have moved a lot more vaccines these days where this kind of genetic material no was the vaccines
but doc into me mba say nipa and you to me limited you need error bia or why betimi abase notwithstanding say just you the one nipa na obetimi anya yare
obetum but not the yare
na ye
can no yemfande most mothers in there say ko ba DPT obeka dem ma eba no paracetamol because obenya temperature inti like all foreign things are yezeko yemun yebetum yenya reactions wo mu say I mean obi wo ho a offer paracetamol benya bad reaction into like every other things vaccines have their limitations in terms of but a drubia you weigh the risk and the benefit and a woman and then you realize that okay papa na it will do no it is better than bonna obeyen so if we feel that bonna beye more than a papa na then you will but some of these things it brings dilemmas more example there was a rotavirus vaccine for children moframa wonya diarrhea be from rotavirus wonya diarrhea and moframa p from these diarrhea diseases usually you know the mortality is high in terms of diarrhea. Now what this rotavirus vaccine now the virus and the rotavirus vaccine now what it gives moframa intercession or the war small intestines folds up and or a problem and some children can die very few children reacted to it very few children reacted to it now when you bad reaction will withdraw all because a few children died but in this was maybe about 4 children but the rotavirus vaccine so wasn't my African children who die a lot from diarrhea the number of children who would have gotten the bad reaction compared to the number of children who die from diarrhea you think that they will keep the better keep the vaccine but no they withdrew it to even put in a better one to make sure that it will be as minimal as possible. And this is how the drug world works. And especially with vaccines, because vaccines they produce it in millions. because then it makes more sense because it takes a lot of money, hundreds of millions and lots of years to produce a vaccine. You see, no fasun de ebe kakra baby a that be ebe bebre
to sikapa beko. Okay, doc when me sakusa question say ye kodu baby a ye do to say the yare aba wi ase nyina ya when na obeye when obedwen vaccine ho eye nipa wi ase fo nyina na beka bom anansa o man bia betra ne krum no no so adwen vaccine kro obeye.
Well, so on my man be was discussion research inti wonim there ebia ye pede yen kofu wo bo won ho ban wo yen fan there measles whether wo polio whether wo bo ho ban wo friend cervical cancer, etc., etc., etc. Inti, we support pharmaceutical companies in various ways, maybe not with money per se, but in various ways. Maybe laws and things for these big pharma companies to be able to produce these vaccines. And then, now, wabema universities, sika, aban bema university grants aban betum support university America Day, the National Institutes of Health, which is maybe the equivalent of Ministry of Health. They do a lot of research and they put a lot of money into research. Inti aban bia sika to research so that the scientists betum aye. But unfortunately, Africa and Ghana, we don't put that kind of money into research.
I didn't.
Well, that will be up to the politicians to answer that questions. Why? Because I think that at a certain point in time, AU or so, war countries, they should aim towards 3% of their GDP to research. But up to now, very few countries, I'm sorry to say, have even reached 1%. And at all. We don't put any money into research. And research are expensive. Because in research, it is not just to get positive results, because negative results are also an answer,
okay.
to show that this is not the way you should go. You should go another way.
But doctor, me say amete okay. Minimum de kura research no ewumu a ebi say mete research ase no. Me hu said the modern city a money expensive say no. I'm looking at a situation as simple as say virus no. Nti ya hwehwe na ono no da hoyi. And I say, or the insumo, and I say, Ujinaho, and I say, Bibisa, why does what I didn't know was a first cabibrisa?
But, one, in Yama P. Yam Fande, one, training. Training is expensive. But it takes several years of training I say, for the person to be a scientist. Okay. Then, so
Ghana your scientists were her.
Oh, you were scientists. Bebre.
What? And I mudin kasa say there. Yeah, it is a US near boss scientists kakra.
Oh, the coffee war. Ebo wasn't war, baby. The research world on so Pideo.
Okay.
It's in coffee war crom ha. Mimpede the John Mabos in P. But there, coffee war Nuguchia. Ebo wasn't what baby. I was original. I say, and they have a lot of respect
in the research world.
Nuguchi is Nuguchi because it produces good work. Okay. Nuguchi is Nuguchi because the scientists there produce work that is comparable to
scientists
baby. And that is why people will put their money there. When I say people, I mean outside this country to put their money into research to say do that. Yeah, advanced laboratories here. Yeah, COVID, PCR machines. You to me almost 3,000 samples in a day. Japanese phone was see man to 18 months ago, and it cost them 20 million. Why do I buy them? 1 year because they're young fair. Yeah, because what I know was seen Gucci 40 years ago. The output of the scientists there is worthy to invest more for them to put more research work out there.
But Oman in anticipation of the pandemic.
One man in anticipation of the pandemic. One man in anticipation. Ebeshiano. In 2 years ago. Now, I had even as just in November last year. Did we ever think that anything will happen like this? No. But we're in anticipation that the scientists there produce good work, and so they need the investment to advance on their work and produce more good work. Scientists they but coming back to your question, why it is expensive? No. Yeah, machines now you're using, they're expensive. PCR machine, if you want a PCR machine, at least you spend $50,000, $60,000.
SARS machine now,
it's one. I was a year COVID. Na say Gucci was 6 or more. And why? So if a could be a 50,000, that
is USD.
USD. I mean, Gucci what sequence and it cost them at least $120,000. Why would anybody put that money there? Because people who work on it bring out good results. It's expensive, and reagents now we're using. We'll use reagents now. All sorts of things. They're expensive. Research, is expensive.
Okay.
NASA government, in his scheme of things, feel that I can neglect it or I can let it get by. And so it will be difficult for us to say, okay, as vaccine. Vaccine, you bet my trials, but the hundreds and millions that go into doing the vaccine, somebody has to invest in it. Somebody has to invest in it.
Okay. Yeah, so once again, my question I may be saying, say ya ba bi du ha ye hu se nipa no ewu obi a hye ba bi a oye ne bibi mahu universities bi mahu pharmaceutical companies bi mahu countries bi a o ma sha ase so mo ye bibi na person bi say ha ye bibi sa o ha na
that say ya
say yen so ye be ka say ye vaccine Togo beka, Burkina Faso beka, Chad beka, Egypt beka, and forgive me, we are looking up to Big Brother.
Well,
say obey now the aba.
Big Brother, wakonim wo nyama pi.
But so Big Brother, scientists are money. Big Brother.
So they can do the collaboration with Big Brother. They can do the collaboration with Big Brother, but on their own, in terms of inputs, not in terms of brain contribution, but in terms of obeying. So we definitely have to contribute in terms of intellectual contribution to Big Brother, but not necessarily in terms of okay, government okay, may sponsor scientists now why not? They have the brains to do it, but
okay, you best number sikasam no bi but say yare ba say ya say the abey edim bre science na yetimi anya vaccine ana ye ni bibia sa ho.
Oh, ye ni bibia ye betima kade in ochina ya ye benya vaccine.
At least
no, at
least so betima ba sa afina ye nyan.
Oh yes.
Mfemienu.
Oh, but in malaria you offended the malaria parasite. The many years. Malaria parasite or smart. Inti out for hana no suzafa.
Inti sekobane say when yes we say we yes smart now yes smarter. It means on so dey be fa na afa asa.
But me ayan na ye.
Na den na ato ye.
Asama ato ye.
Asam ben. Because o come man 40 because omo interest omo so ada asam na beto ye.
Oh. Ma what here no. What here? I bet you. I bet also.
I call you some no because by June dear. Na Wow. I see.
In your yes, public health for by there, okay. All diseases will follow the natural curve at a certain point in time. But
but you make sure curve no much say
okay.
Ehura bejo. You mean say na me frɛ no.
Ehura bejo.
Ehura be ba form.
But nintam na nyimpa wo be wu. Teta say inti ebepe there ebema wadwentam teta say na vaccine ba obema wadwentam
inti ehia vaccine no
inti ehia vaccine no
intent shoulder
but yen to me yan shoulder like asin maybe 6 months or ana asin maybe ochina but asin maybe 18 months, maybe.
So between Sabre ya wo kan sa asemi. Anytime na ebenya no ye be na ye ya ye kotetete dem na ya pia ba kakra na sa na ye be ye.
Oh, se ehu se yenzi ye bi sesa. Ehu a ebia na no bodro. Se sase. Nti ebia onwu completely but ebia na no bekofom. Se ye befa de yahoho yensa no yahoho me hope de yahoho ni yeso tesa so de yezi egogo because sa yensi ye bi ansesa na sa nkofo bi sine so wokogware mpoano nsu na yaba no onchewana oche de yenta ase de yensi ye bi ye do osesa o se temase
eno ye sa myths la manfo
obi de so wonum so bora won bato ana wonum hot water
ana so what ko fa no abede what's wrong with say obi benum so bolo they are fighting a virus
Sobolo fight virus. So no yenum sem na nsu ncha ye wohoro yensa ye sem na nsu
na sobolo no yes no
yo
so we say
sobolo
hwentia pepper arewa kakadu
they are fantastic. They are good herbs. But onye sobolo na yerbanom na yesa cure COVID.
Have we tried it?
Clinical trials are expensive. Now, clinical trials have had a bad history, in terms of all through the years, things have happened, and as things have happened, clinical trials have become even more tightly regulated, and they must be done in a certain way that the human subject is paramount. The human being now.
So but
sobolo nkunipa but say epede as ye treatment mo bia nche treatment na erikin yum nti ana or prevention na erikin
treatment
nti nipa na yer nche ide e compare
ono osu on it was abem papa so the question be say ingredients no
yeah. But say ebe compare so bolon so all your treatments are either 2 arms it's a better comparison.
Let me be reckless. I'm going to be very reckless and say that okay, so yeah your part hey nke bia ntimi nka say okay nipa na omanya bi no ye be ba ko na ye dia so bolon na try na hwe
but you see then you put that person's life at risk instead of make that
we are told say but you see, we are trying. Yes, we are. Let me be responsible and say trial and error.
Yes, trial and error. Medicine is a lot of trial and error.
Okay.
But or a calculated trial and error.
So is calculated drink. Ghana drink.
Or a calculated trial and error. Because a befa nipa warrior. Now I'm a cross standard treatment. Now I'm a cross sobolo. You have to calculate the risk there. What is the risk in giving somebody sobolo and giving somebody the standard treatment and look at it? You first have to look sobolo. What exactly it is? Sobolo hibiscus leaves.
Yeah.
What kind of tannins? What kind of whatever.
Where you the main ingredients in the film?
mean
hibiscus.
Inya.
Intia. Akakadru.
So on the main thing. Chonzi. Wabaka ho keke.
But said the man ye antiviral. Forgive me.
What you know?
No. I'm just said the man for can so you can be.
It's your pawn choppy. Young kade, herbal preparations, they are not good. A lot of drugs came from herbal you know, they have herbal ancestry. They started off with the herbs and they find a lot of anti-cancer drugs. They come from plants. And then you know, CS Center for Plant Medicine. They have good herbs. Was it? It's young kade herbs no but they have to go through the rigorous scientific process of a clinical trial.
Yeah. Attitude and very positive when it comes to plant medicine. Maybe to me akasa.
One more attitude no anya.
No, make us a yena because at a point be yena ye pe obroni aduro. And until recently be I can say plant medicine there no as a yena no ye adwen free. Enro edua intini na bna.
But you have to build the look attestunate ayefe. Attestunate it comes from a plant.
Okay.
The Chinese were using the plant and they have over the years and then gone through the scientific rules and now attestunate all of us are using it for treatment of malaria.
Yeah.
But it's oil plant. So the thing is that we can take our herbs and take them through rigorous scientific processes to come out in at the end and say this plant, this is what we would a bit my way. Because many drugs come from digitalis. I mean, I use for heart yerba. It comes from plants.
When
atropine, all those things.
When a bear said you man.
Scientists know bear.
Okay.
But we yes kada what's bear.
When a discard be men can share. I'm friend and can change this year.
Oh, what says a two friend and I do a kitchen the office come from.
Nana what's it? So government, but you need private individuals, private entities almost sponsor research. And then what do they get in return?
Well, that is also for the government to do. Private entities are what sponsor research, maybe more products be or per wash products and they may sponsor research for that product. And you see that a lot of the pharmaceutical companies can't work per se, but the pharmaceutical companies they fund universities to do research for them. Even though they have research branches, they fund universities to do the research because academicians also that is their life there over here research now our core and everything. You see private individuals in terms of and then of course Bill Gates. Look at Bill Gates. I mean a lot of his money he gives to his foundation now. They research. See, there are private individuals who put their monies in. I mean, you have also, how would I put it, governments coming together to put in to have not a company, a pharma company, but come together to do coalitions. Coalitions that also go out to fund research and fund into getting vaccines, etc. The funding comes from all sources.
Yes. We the beba. But I was saying the park say I don't know the abue nipa humanity.
Yes.
Just that is a humanitarian gesture.
A lot of vaccines, yes, there are some that are expensive to you, but a lot of the vaccines also are given to poorer countries, at minimal cost or virtually nothing. As as a enlightened self-interest. Says to myself, the world is smaller. Has become smaller. So it is in sometimes the bigger countries, and enlightened self-interest to fund certain diseases in their poorer siblings, so that those diseases don't come back to them and bite them. You wonder that, why would Big Brother fund Ebola?
Or yesterday, also it be memekano. So even though Oyama will be there, but or the born also so and for the global good.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if Bill Gates' wife na your born dean woman, say.
Melinda Gates.
What recently statement be away she's had a month for trouble on a fine. Okay, my main kind story and then my main kind story know what I say. Melinda Gates, wife of world billionaire Bill Gates, has claimed that developing countries, including those in Africa, would be badly hit, and I want to underline would be badly hit by the deadly coronavirus pandemic. She told American news channel CNN that the African continent is set to suffer great consequences if the pandemic reaches a peak there in similar ways like in Europe, America, and Asia. Melinda Gates, who is also co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, said cases are low in Africa because the continent is not testing as much as Europe, Asia, and America. Nasama okay nini. And I'm saying the fact that okay say you be uno. I'm for trouble now fine. You share her view.
Yes,
so we are not testing as much, and then if we don't.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether it's a joke or it's true, but I think they said, was it in Burundi or something? They asked that, why didn't you have any positives? Also,
we are not testing.
Yeah, you understand? I mean, so it is not cheap. Okay, it is not cheap to do these tests. It's not cheap.
And yet cheap.
It's not cheap. It's not cheep to do that test.
In developing countries, maybe we may not. Why?
It's not cheap. I mean, in which day they are testing 24 hours. Every shift to be maybe you get maybe 40-50 people in a shift. Well, that was a PPEs, full PPEs. Will be use all sorts of things, reagents, all sorts of things. It costs a lot of money. So developing countries, they may not have built their infrastructure to that level. They can do those amounts of testing. I mean,
but tests they be cheaper, like the rapid test, and only cheaper.
Not necessarily. One in the PCR. Okay, maybe the machines are expensive, but it is once you are able to sequence and get the genome of the structure of the abuan, you can pick points in and do assays. I'm just listening. and do assays which are diagnostics. So in getting the structure of the abuan, it's easy to do diagnostics, but to do RDTs, and you can get almost 99% in terms of specificity, okay, of the abuanini tests. With the rapid diagnosis tests, they are a little more difficult to do, and they don't give you as much specificity, and so you can get a lot of false negatives.
Because they are rapid in China.
Well, it's yes, and the technology is a little more difficult to get to make it very specific. I mean, there are a few out there that I think they've put out in terms of certain countries. America has approved some, Britain has approved some. I think the South Koreans and things like that. But you would definitely need to go back to the confirmatory test. You understand?
Why I was saying
because the rapid test, there are two types. One type shows whether you have an active infection going on, or a second type where it shows that you've come into contact with the virus at a certain point in time. So that will help you to know maybe the epidemiology of the disease in terms of, okay, I have I tested positive in terms of rapid test, and then you can go and pick the people and then do the PCR test that is done now.
And be in South Korea, nana.
And be in South Korea.
Omo cancer, omo idea because I know so boy omo Emma omo yeah.
But they are not cheap to do. And they are not the and that form.
Yeah.
No boarding. No boarding. You understand? Into your friend says obi po rapid test nibia. I'm sure that it will not cost less than maybe $20 for one or so. Na say ye pede ye test nipa ye find 50,000 kra. Or ya hin it's a lot of money, and African governments may find it difficult.
I didn't think they find it difficult because by Matisse countries resist you say 100 million be Matisse see win muko febi yes I can na de be yes adwuma.
Well, ye betum yes dem scan aye dem adwuma, but also now some no can poor health structure. Yeah, health structures when you're strong, say massive. Inti so more people get the disease. Yeah, COVID, about 80% get mild disease. Maybe sniffles, throat, kakra, but but obe spread the disease 80%. Into 80% of nkofo no benya mild disease. Then 20% na wakan ibinu benya moderate to severe disease. Maybe another 14%. Then the 6%, 5 to 6% are benya severe disease. And one or we here ventilator etc. Into it is not that because or 80%, no, it is okay. Because as the 80% becomes larger, the 20% too becomes larger. In terms of numerical, the percentage may not necessarily change, but the figures, the numbers will change. Because 80% of 100 is different from 80% of 1,000 in terms of numbers, and 80% of 1,000,000. If we do that, and we get a lot more people falling into the bracket of the 6%. Hey, Nancy, what's one boy?
And you bet us here now. Bet you one out boy, Nancy. Anyway, just
water. If you get a lot more people in that 6%, our health system cannot cater for those people in that 6%, and then it gets overwhelmed. Then when it gets overwhelmed, now
said the New York for complaining because any panel more critical condition, no, here ventilators, and
so we don't want to get there, and that's why you're stopping now. So that the 80% who get mild disease, no, if the number is small there, obviously the number in the 20% will also be small. But if we allow the 80%, they don't get really sick to be going out there. No, was the sound. Thank you.
Okay. At some point, maybe Sao say, and said the ACA, the directive said the buy any ni conduct, no. Bomb modern I am more modern, no, the actually you be quite to work on idea. But my person stress once again say, ya can't program me to say, so what be free or being chair and now who be beer. Now also so to was now kind of cry. As one baby came in defense of Belinda Gates, me share and the minimum baby. But the so the all kind any dear, meaning why she's been taken to the gallows. Because part of Nasamo kind, but so bet me na me kind we sinti wan out if you know you make up your mind. Or see Melinda Gates said her worst nightmare was when she saw what China had to do to isolate an enormous part of its population. My first thought was Africa. How in the world are they going to deal with this? I have been in townships and slums all over Africa. We talk about physical distancing and hand washing in our country. But if you live in slums where there can't be physical distance and you have to go out and get your meals, you don't have clean water to wash your hands. She continued, it is going to be horrible in the developing world, and part of the reason why you are seeing less number of cases is because they don't have access to very many tests. No,
it's on point, and it is right, because we are seeing it here. Let us say, the reason why lockdown so rigid is because it been one call out one day.
The balancing act.
Let us say, obi why small room on a number, near a number. It's 5. They are all in the same room.
Because of describing the year. So, omo beda, omo be yi center table no no mo de asi akomia no so. Ansa no ma create space, ansa no be any baby ada. All right.
See, but my social distancing Yes, I say our friend then compound house. Compound housing, maybe where even 15 rooms are, they probably have one toilet. I say. I mean, one toilet it's a problem. And the virus has been found in stool. I mean, there is some school of thought out there that since the virus has been found in stool and is persistent in stool now, echo toilet.
A bit me about
a flasher, a border, flash na on ye
shouldn't too many go so
or whatever on into at a compound house. That's where 15 families are in the compound house, and where even 10 families and even 3 families are one toilet. Obeying. It's massive. And see, she was spot on.
Okay. Now, once again to the vaccine. Say yeah, vaccine now. Almost where they tested. Yeah, vaccine we are testing. Then the influence test nipa cry the better testing. Of course, we be nipa the better testing. Then the be influence the choice of person.
Okay. So vaccines they go through many stages before they come out. The first stage in why vaccine no or lab no. The first stage no cha aya wo mbom. So you do animal studies, which we call preclinical studies. Then the second stage will be what we call first in human studies. Now, first in human studies, they are not large studies. They are maybe 100 people, 60 people.
I don't know what the word
but
okay.
First in human studies, they are safety studies, and that is why they don't take a lot of people. Maybe 100 maximum. You understand? 60, 30, because you are looking at safety. If you want to see the safety profile of the because say when you papi there, not so or you bad there'll be problems. And see when you do that phase 1, which we call phase 1, now you look at the safety profile of you take extremely healthy people. So you have an inclusion-exclusion criteria. So we hypertension,
any of the underlying conditions.
Conditions, plenty. They will take extremely healthy people, maybe between the ages of 18 and 50, okay, who are in their prime, and it is voluntary.
Voluntary.
It is voluntary.
Okay, so answer about 12 voluntary. So no, nipa bi ni mo wa adwen say vaccine bi a be no. The test ground no Africa.
That's not true.
Na omo de beba. In fact, last week there were pictures going round. Yeah, you church the much for said that you hu bibia sawa. Ne bi mu kura susu say e bi kura akoso Africa hadada.
That's not true. It's true. You know, never.
Government be compromise say okay, let's
never
behind our back.
If you want your results to be acceptable, clinical research has gone through many bad things, okay, and has reached this point. So you've heard of the Tuskegee, you've heard of the Jewish hospital children, you've heard. So clinical trials, as clinical trials have gone on, they have tightened it. Now there's a group which is called, they were initially called the International Conference for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals. Now, it was brought together by certain countries. America was one, Japan, and they came together and said that, first, so we draw ha, we be a clinical trial. So what they drone ko America, I said woman ye clinical trial. So woman the drone ko Sweden, I said woman clinical trial. And then they realized that it's a waste of resources. So some of these countries came together in 1996 or so and said that let us put some requirements down for if you abide by these requirements now, then all you have to do is to bring me your documentation. And then when I go through your documentation, I can accept your drug. And see, they came there. A few years ago, it was no longer what you call it, a conference. So now it's a council. The Swedish law then put it into law. So it's not, and they have what they call good clinical practice. The good clinical practice, it comes from a certain principles, and the principles, one of the first principles, is autonomy. That the human person or your autonomous or you have to give the person informed consent. And the person has a right to ask you anything and everything and then you consent. It is overlooked, one, by a group of people who are called Institutional Review Board or Ethics, Ghana Health Service for Ethics Review Committee. They look at that ethics, they look at your informed consent to see whether you informed consent. And of course, the informed consent, there's a standard to it.
But you bet me I procure our consent by...
You cannot.
Maybe by the promise of reward being...
That is one of the things that is against its autonomy. It's coercion and inducement and adada. So you cannot, you cannot offer the person anything that obey inducement or obey adada. We Africans. In situation a woman, the fact is say you need scan. Say you ne you nuanum penimfo no hia. Normally, a woman say a parents why you say. No. And yes, I did. I don't know here. No, no, but you see, where will you take those results to if there's no proper informed consent? I mean, see, no, there you baby. Then there's what we also call beneficence. If the people are not going to benefit from it, I'm sorry. You don't take your trial. You don't take it. So you cannot come and do a trial here. A Druno, a area, the people will not have access to it, or the people cannot afford it. Okay, me person will address this as some way say because minimum the messages are already, and some are wanting to say. Young ma Africa, baby, I be testing. Which is wrong. Two, wrong. So why is wrong? Two, say. Obia the vaccine bahama obia anje. That is wrong. Last week me were na messages from UK and some other places bia ebinumo kase because aduma ye ntino yen caution Ghana for say they momo accept vaccine bia fi. That is wrong. That is also wrong. That is okay, so you are addressing in order. First one no say testing ground. Why is it wrong? In fact, Africa does less clinical trials than in abroad. We don't do that many trials, which is sad because we are then not building up the technical knowledge on it, and then we are also and not getting the best out of the drugs and the vaccines that are out there because you have to face it. There are genetic differences. Okay, so in the genetic differences. Thank you.
Ebeye adwuma kora bia enye ne sede wo say ye no sanete.
Okay. So because there are genetic differences, it is important that we try the drugs to ascertain that whether they are good for us or they are not good for us. Otherwise, look, people all want to work at a maybe or hypertension. So ornum abofu edrun to keep the hypertension down.
I know the ornum.
On the ornum. Niti and yawa. Obedan obekwa kodnum paracetamol on is ornum. But how do you know that paracetamol, which was done by trials of only Caucasians, is good for Negroids?
Say you saw her baby, I saw her nipa na edo mo saw her no monye before. And so you know say adru no. It's important that we do some of these trials so that we can see the genetic differences now and see whether we are better. Look, the last time, all of a sudden, wasn't there a certain hypertensive drug? It's not good for black people. So usually, if you go to your pharmacist, if you go to your doctor and he speaks to his pharmacist about it, the pharmacist will say, for this black person, these are the regimens, these are the hypertensive drugs, and this is the way you have to start, and then increase upon and go and get the best for the person. Otherwise, the doctor seeing that, oh, this drug, it has good something, will probably just prescribe it and give it to you. So we have to do these trials. Enti kokwa de nka what say adro bi ade beba yan so yen so hwa ansa na ye hu say ye see adwuma e wo imu ansa na ya gia to.
It's important. So we cannot say that yen trials and yen vaccine trials because you know abofo opede wo kunya na. They don't need to spend hundreds of millions to kill us. We do bad all by ourselves. No. Look at yerka yerba ho asem. Yes, na yenye social distancing. What the word chase man ehu say na word chase man say na yeah. Is that if it was a bad ailment like as bad as Ebola, do we need Bronyibi to come and kill us? We do bad we do bad all by ourselves. Look, I think that yes, we've had a bad history with white people. Accepted, you understand? And I don't think they love us any more than we love ourselves. But I don't think that they are also scheming out. They don't need to do that. Look, all they need is what we call neocolonialism. They can manipulate us just by our brain work, the way we think to do harm to each other. They don't need to spend that kind of money to do harm to us.
Messages be about Mbobo Biswebi who have responded and son. Asafwe J. Edward Kateche says that TK, please get the video clip and listen to Melinda Gates. She said, Africa will soon have dead bodies on the street. Asafwe J, go back and watch the clip. What kind of what's I don't know. I'm saying at the moment we can say it's like we can't say why I'm here so maybe let's all go back and listen. Say one can hear me, I will not sit here and then support. No. Sure. But reading from the mema can kind of dear. Also said and some of us have even sat here and said
the way I even take it. No. Why should we sometimes take it literally? Because sometimes you want to emphasize a point, and in emphasizing a point, you use a hyperbole. You exaggerate it a bit so that people will set up. So it may not. I'm not. But even if she said so, it may not necessarily be your friend my afro me for once me for twice na me who say hey what's my afro 2 million times or banana amfa that's my say I was making a point and so she could have said that but I don't think she meant it literally you understand but she wanted to emphasize that with our poor health system we virtually will be lying on the streets
if we continue living in our slums and not wash our hands. Well, anyway, Frederick Ejekum, question I will be some no. I think minim se betimi answer. I say, okay, I say vaccine you produce at minimum maximum cost. I say minim se.
It depends.
It depends.
It
okay.
depends.
All right.
Not all vaccines cost the same.
Okay. Samson Loveland says that if we should accept vaccine from abroad and test it here in Ghana, what of our own herbals? Okay. You say move no more. I say be a man man will be because be an even be why I address the denti. That is so. Right. So doc you be pon but yen pon abra yen cancer asem we say. Sir I don't know say there's this you see the sequencing of whatever I said
okay. Inti
then
okay. Inti the a profile of the aboa set as
the aboa na obe queen no eh dabi obe nyan no obe queen we go go be say me na me say go obe queen
by June so okay, so you find like a profile of the aboa.
You see you nisu.
Okay. Nisu, and why you know who the nisu are very similar to more Wuhan.
Okay.
I know who the are very similar to more Wuhan. Now, so nisua. Of course, it helps in doing diagnostic tools, and things like that. And then it also helps in seeing the epidemiology.
So you who nisu we are.
Okay, so ye tum nisuna yes okay or are very similar to the one in Wuhan.
Okay. And then no nti de hu no it say no abia but we expatriate. So if you want to
okay. Are very similar. Okay. Then it also helps us to say if we keep track of it. On this one on one-time event or a process will be continue a war and then it also will go to show whether one or sisan nisu ana or test us say instead of we have what we call antimicrobial resistance because in one was so test us I mean they have all these viruses and bacteria they have probably lived on earth longer than us. And it is because they have was supposed to live longer. You understand? Was supposed to, and maybe it's so difficult to keep ahead of them. But that was supposed to slowly. Then you can keep an eye and keep ahead of them. Then you know them. And then of course it helps in making the diagnostic tools not etc. And then it also helps to give a picture of your friend that okay, I have to know a friend and no. Then of course say abona han or dam nisu
ne ban ni and we call nipa na omo mu a say na oda ne ho adi ewom.
Okay. Then it say when you vaccine vaccine no then it also will tell us whether vaccine no obey ejuma amehena
so does it mean say baby yare na kobia no so mo aye and I was so mo yes no
yeah Chinese phone yare ba ne be na no what was it to dwa and that's how some of the diagnostic tools came about.
So forgive me say me nyante ase there and na be na sa report no MI no say na ye ka say COVID-19 and aye nkrofo
say COVID-19 no it came later won abone su no tetase abone anka say ofan SARS-CoV-2 tetase inti Chinese phone yarban ben a cluster of nkofun wonya yarban na wotum wo isolate a virus now wohwe nisu or tesase now was it too dwa there okay abona nkofun na wo yen abona oye hon oninyi tete then people are able to take a point what aborni ni sunumu and then make diagnostic tools tete into diagnostic was it assessing ono na tum ezu there okay oya aborni into PCR ehu reagents and everything now was it PCR because when you aborni sunu intana then see ehena yohan ntai oida yanso yehu there abona workan or the same as moha na wasisan suban and now at them mohona bi tesimas aha ineti yehu there oh I'm
power to say or no be.
Thank you.
Okay. My sister Susie Annabel Hagen or say the doctor has explained the vaccine profile in as simple a way anyone can understand. Never heard it explained like that before. Thank you. Right. Anthony Abladi says that I think the lockdown is okay. Or say it's not yielding the good results at all, especially in Accra. In Takra, we are in voluntary lockdown. Okay. Accra, but and I think that is Abladi's worry.
But my problem also is with the police and this thing. They listen to too many stories. Oh, big Kasoko Trele, and I'm saying, or Kasoko Trele story in the channel, done. Because if you have a serious place to go and something to do, your story belong. Maybe make sure my ID card. We'll be sending me UTV. Me a no Gucci me kaka samo. It's 2 minutes. 9. Obi to me jina ho na afena. Nana nkanswa kofa ha. In the
past 2 days, it appears to say,
but you see, it's also wasting a lot of time because in a short distance, I could have covered in 10 minutes. I covered it in 40. Why? Because they are listening to stories.
Okay.
If the story is, not me catch if the story is long, not today.
The longer the story, the more
it's done. Because
the more questions.
Yeah, the more questions. Story near it's done. Non coffee.
Okay.
Because if you really have genuine somewhere to go, will your story be long? Your story won't be long.
Well, and I say, okay, right. So. Auntie Susie, at this time, man can doctor, man can Auntie Susie.
Oh, no problem.
Sir, we be sao say. I do with the Benny Befima. Here we no no person. We be over be a Mrs. question. No, the man now.
Yanka June assembly.
The June the Suarez no okay June.
I don't think so. I don't think we know when. I am not sure anybody can put a finger on it and say, damn day.
Mama can't tell me Mr. question. Lockdown e be extend that now.
Say you see e bunu tot. Ye bunu. Ya lockdown.
From Dr. Susan Edu Amankwa, Clinical Research Coordinator Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research and a public health pharmacist. Then be any Becca said, that's be brave.
Yo, me fancy so. One fan cham kaka.
Fancy no oya del. Me wo a Cape Coast and me lecture back. Was fancy is a very romantic language. Anyway, abusa for your dying who you me program you better to so, but yes, sorry if I say more some money by me be we say, but you me am bobo so because near per se you tie na ye be kan bo me bi o ho a e be boya me asen generate topics for the future nti ye dem asipi ye dan ye ho ba ye ba ye beto adwuma ndi so mo ntwen ye ba sese a